We just completed this wiring job on this 66 Chevy pickup truck, and these are the steps that we took to do it. This truck has an LS swap with this Edelbrock Pro Flow intake manifold. The engine wiring harness is a factory LS wiring harness that has been just converted and everything to the truck. You can see some of the connectors and stuff were never removed. It was just kind of tossed in here. A lot of the electrical connectors are kind of just hanging like these parking lights. These front headlight harness was all pinched between the front grille and everything. The dash wiring harness was just a nightmare. Nothing's loomed. There's potential for shorts, a lot of butt connectors and crimps in this wiring harness. So we're just going to go ahead and remove the entire wiring harness and restart from scratch, clean everything up. Even the rear wiring harness all the way to the rear was no loom on it or anything. A lot of zip ties and just wired up. Just not very good work. We have every single piece of wiring out of this truck that we could do. Here's your taillight harness. This is the stock LS harness that we need to go through and clean all up. And then we have the wiring harness that does everything else, and it's just a huge mess. Here's just an example of some of the poor connections that are inside this harness that someone has done in the past. This is an eyelet inside of one of the female connectors. Look at how many butt connectors are on this pigtail for just the fuel pump. The LS harness is kind of laid out in the order that it would be if it was in the truck. We'll go ahead and peel off all the old loom and tape and remove some of these old connectors and butt connectors that are in the harness. We laid the intake down, ran all the wiring where it needed to be. We also shortened a lot of these wires because a lot of them were just excessively long and no need for that. We routed the taillight harness over there in the back as well. And here's all the tools that we had laid out, and we even laid out the main wiring harness as well. All right, we have the wiring harness just about made up. Look at all those extra wiring that we pulled out of just the LS harness. After giving the LS harness its haircut, we have everything loomed and routed exactly how we want it to when it's in the truck. All these connectors go to exactly where they're supposed to. And we just have a few things to do after we go to wire it in. These wires are for my ignition source and my battery source. These are for my ECM connections. Next, all we got to do is just install it into the truck. We routed it into the truck. We're going to install a new grommet inside of this hole. And we're also going to replace the knock sensor valley pan. We want to give it a little bit of a clean look. I also used tape to cover up any of the intake ports. Look at how bad this connector was. That was a previous repair from somebody else. We double checked all their other connectors, like this headlight switch connector, just to make sure it was wired right. We also made sure our accessory connectors, our turn signal indicators, and all the other connectors that are in this harness are properly wired from the previous person who wired it, because a lot of it wasn't correct. We also checked and made sure the fuse box looked good. We also put a lot of time in making sure that the odometer gauges were wired correctly and that all the indicators were right. The wiring harness is installed back into the truck. Everything is loomed, and a lot of connectors were replaced with weather pack connections that we had in the kit, so everything's nice and sealed and an easy connection for next time if there's any kind of maintenance. Everything has a grommet. Inside the truck, we have everything back installed. We did under dash lights as the customer requested. You can see nice and clearly underneath this thing now. All the lights work. The dash lights, the odometer gauges, they all function like they're supposed to. This truck had LED lights in it, front and rear, which was kind of difficult because we put LED flashers in it and they still didn't work, but we put these adjustable LED flashers in, and then that fixed everything. We also put in a neutral safety switch here in the clutch, so that way it doesn't start by just hitting the key and it being in gear for safety. We also got the power seats functioning properly, and this truck also has vintage air in it, so we went ahead and wired it all in. We installed some relays to operate that. It never actually functioned when the truck came in. This truck also received power windows, ups and downs. There was already a plug in the kit. Truck's all wired up and complete. Big thank you to Trick Tuning Performance for allowing me to come in and film and give some content on wiring this truck.